All right, so let's go over this assignment from yesterday. Political cartoon activity. All right, what's going on here? Who wants to describe this political cartoon? So yesterday we talked about Wilson's 14 points, right, Noah? What are you doing back there? You following along here? You on the worksheet? You're not on your phone, are you? Okay. So we talked about Wilson's 14 points. What was his last point of the 14 points? What was it? What was it? We talked about it yesterday. Cassidy? The League of Nations. Yeah, good job. What was the League of Nations? What was it? Good guess. What? Come on now. Griffin, what was the League of Nations? All right, so international organization, right? Where they have representatives from each country to come and talk, to dispute about certain issues, right? Before what could happen? To try to prevent what from happening? Noah? Yeah, okay, yeah. Another war, right? Another war. Good job. So great idea, right? Who came up with the idea? Cassidy? Woodrow Wilson. What was he all about? What was his title? President of the United States. Yep, good job. So why is the President of the United States trying to solve a lot of these issues here in Europe? So after the war is over, why is the U.S. Really making the standards here? Why are they establishing principles for European countries and world countries to follow? What? Keep peace. Okay. Freedom. All right. Cassidy?
I think since they were involved in the last one.
So they were involved in World War I. Yeah.
They would think that if there was another war, that they would be involved in it as well.
Okay. All right. We'll talk about it. Actually, the United States goes back to isolationism. They decided, out the heck with it. We're gonna stay out of this, right? We're gonna stay out of this. Tanner?
So because America was on the other side of the Atlantic, they feel like they were an outside force in the middle. So they wouldn't have any rivalries against each other like France and Germany did.
Perfect. Yeah, good job. So we talked about really building up to World War I, right? And how the United States was what? Focused where at? The Western Hemisphere, right? Okay, remember the Monroe Doctrine? We're going to just isolate ourselves and control the Western Hemisphere. So did we have rivals, let's say, with like Germany, like Great Britain, like France? No, we didn't, right? And let's face it, if France or Great Britain kind of dictated and ran the negotiations, which they kind of did in all reality, right? Then most likely this would be lopsided, right? Most likely that this would be aimed to try to defeat another country. But in all reality, what happened? Well, that's exactly what happened with the Treaty of Versailles, right? Okay, good. So with the League of Nations, the United States is this outside country, right? We didn't really have rival nations like Germany, like France, like Great Britain, okay? We're kind of the outsider looking in. And in all reality, all these European countries to try to rebuild, who do they need to be dependent on? Barbara? Who's going to help them rebuild? Yeah, the United States, right? And why? Why? Noah? We want to make money, okay, but how can we do it? And let's say Great Britain, why can't they just rebuild all of Europe? Why can't France rebuild all of Europe? Why can't Germany rebuild them by themselves? Tanner?
Because they were so devastated after the war with their economies and industries.
Yeah, good job. So was the United States affected like these other European countries? No. The fighting never happened on American soil. Does that make sense? No industries, no businesses, no manufacturing was destroyed. So this allowed the United States then to pump out materials, pump out finalized goods to help rebuild Europe because we were unharmed, we were unscratched by the war. And I know I talked about the propaganda pieces. We were always fearful that this war might travel across the Atlantic into the United States, right? Many of those propaganda pieces dictated that, depicted that, but it never happened, right? A lot of it because many Americans joined the Selective Service. We got involved in the war before this could occur. So that's maybe why the U.S. kind of ran the negotiations for the most part. Yeah, France and Great Britain threw in their wrinkles. Okay, they wanted to make sure that Germany couldn't rise to power, which we already talked about with the Treaty of Versailles. So again, what's going on here? The League of Nations is representing what in this picture? What's it representing here? The unfinished what, Danner? The bridge. Yep, good job. And many people argue it's like, okay, well, this bridge is actually linking the United States across the Atlantic Ocean to these European countries, which if you look at it, yeah, you can kind of see where that's going from, right, where that's going. And the bridge is assembled with really the Allied powers, okay, these European countries. So what's Uncle Sam doing here, or Mr. America, as you refer to? What's he doing? Smoking, yeah, he shouldn't be doing that. It's bad for you. What a guy. But anyway, yeah, he's relaxed. He's kicked back. It looks like he's not wanting to put that final piece in the bridge, right? And there's a reason for it. And we talked about it the other day. Congress decided what? Are we going to join the League of Nations? No. And the reason for it is because we're all the way across the Atlantic Ocean. And we're going to revert back to isolationism. Okay, one of the main things we talked about, we discussed and went over with George Washington, right? He thought the way the United States is going to really be destroyed, if the United States is ever going to be ended, it's because we're going to get involved at the international stage. And we're going to get involved in these European affairs and conflicts, or Asian conflicts, whatever. But at this moment, at this time, as industrialization is taking hold, the world got a lot smaller. And the United States needs to step up at that international stage, at the world stage. Wilson was trying to push the United States involvement at the international market, but, well, at the international level. But Congress had a different idea. So we revert back to isolationism. We go back to really our country across the Atlantic Ocean and forget about these concerns and issues going on in Europe. And that's symbolizing the keystone, right? This keystone, the most important part of the bridge, that's going to finish the bridge, the League of Nations, is missing. And with that being said, well, the League of Nations probably won't stand, right? It won't be completed without the United States involvement. And it just goes to show, obviously, World War II is going to happen. And many people argue if the United States would have joined, well, chances are Germany wouldn't have rose from the ashes. Italy and Japan wouldn't have become stronger powers, right? And cause some issues for the rest of the world and the Allied powers. All right, anyway, that political cartoon does a really good job, I think, symbolizing the League of Nations and how it just wasn't complete. Great idea, right? It was a great idea. And we already know that because the United Nations works pretty well today, right? What's up, Barbara? Do you have your hand up? No, I thought you had your hand up. Okay. Is there any questions on that political cartoon here at all? All right, I'm gonna come around and check it, so I have it ready. Can I start with you, huh? Gail, you haven't finished? You don't have it done? Okay. Well, the questions are attached. Did you know where to find that? Okay. So right down here, you hit launch tool. I'll take you right to the questions. Oh. How about exempt determinants just because you didn't know how to access that way? Or you can complete it on your own now and then just show me later, okay?
Yeah, I do actually.
Just so you click on that. Then you can edit it. Okay? I know there's a lot of clicks there. Now you can edit it. What's up? You be a little bit more descriptive than that. Wow. I agree because it's true.
What am I supposed to say?
Marvel, that's good. That's what I'm looking for here. Mr. America. Drip?
I had a hard time accessing the dog.
You should know all this.
I had a hard time accessing the dog.
Yay. All right, man. Good. Okay, Sarah. Huh? Did you say Mr. America?
No,
Oh, I can see that. wolves and all that.
It's just cool like that. Why is it Uncle Sam?
Yeah,
So, is it
Because it represents the United
But why is the name Uncle Sam?
I don't know.
Right here,
Look it up.
Uncle. It's like Uncle Grandpa.
I knew about.
Maybe you want to miss the.
I knew about. We had been there.
You guys hanging out at Tractor
I
Supply?
forgot.
All right,
Is it
Jeremy.
Rowan? You do.
Go to work.
Is it dead? No, it's alive. I got my I put it up. Mine still looks for You're just like.
I always make sure I check all my pockets before I leave.
We're still.
I can't remember.
All right, I'm gonna put those grades in ASAP.
Thanks.
No problem.
We don't have school tomorrow.
Yeah, they're not really calling for it anymore.
Yeah, I know.
Mrs. Kerwin made us so happy.
I
I'm
know.
skipping on Thursday.
All right, guys, here you go, bell ringer. So what is your opinion? Butch Cassidy, what is your opinion on the League of Nations? Do you think America should have gotten involved at the end of World War I? Why or why not? There we go. Maybe tomorrow I'll have a short essay, just like Miss Kerwin has. We'll see about today's lesson.
You just reminded me about that.
Oh, okay, good.
Oh, I didn't even write the essay.
Bell ringer's out. Let's go. Quiet down.
What's the difference?
It's literally right above the question.
Because
Stop.
I know.
Wait, no, when it turns to 2022, you better put that because I don't remember.
Nope.
Wait, I forget what year it is.
So what 2017 sounds.
What?
Yeah.
Hey, guys, I'm not- Last year, somebody got knocked off.
Bell ringer, quiet.
I'm doing it. You do my hands.
No. I see your mouth moving, not your hands typing.
I'm not- Wait, what field trip were they on?
Hmm?
What is it?
I think they're just practicing for tomorrow.
I should be there.
You fellas done back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, shush.
All right, let's pipe it down a little bit, all right? You can whisper.
League of Nations. What was this one?
Chloe, you get in trouble, huh?
What?
You wanna get in trouble? All right, here you go. What is your opinion on the League of Nations? Do you think America should have gotten involved at the end of World War I? Why or why not? What do we have, Tanner?
Well, on League of Nations, like I said, it was an okay idea.
Okay, just okay.
Because again, America should have not been involved in Europe after the war, as we had nothing going on over there other than getting money out of supply and rebuilding. And honestly, with how Europe was at the time, it was doomed from the start.
Why?
Due to the Treaty of Versailles.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good job. Yeah, that definitely throws a wrinkle into things, doesn't it? Good, good. So with the League of Nations, yeah, that was something that great idea at start, right? Barbara, what do you think?
It's completely biased, and it was like, I feel like it was a great idea, but it's also impossible to execute
Oh,
fairly
why?
because of like the big four and everything. It wasn't fair for other smaller countries because they didn't have a voice in anything.
Good. Oh, you're good. You're good. Yeah. What else? Go ahead. Continue what you're saying.
And I don't think that America should have gotten involved due to the fact that they would soon be war and everything. And I feel like it would further instill fear into the American people. If Germany were to rise again, I feel like it would have just been odd.
Okay. All right. Good job. I like what you mentioned with the Treaty of Versailles. Okay. And how this was really mistreating Germany. And we all talked about it yesterday. Italy and Japan, right? Were they welcome at the League of Nations? Were they welcome at the international stage? No. Yeah, Italy claimed some land, but not what they really want. Japan really didn't even have the same seat. They weren't even viewed as equal as compared to these other European countries and modern countries. They were viewed as inferior. So from the very beginning, from the get-go, these countries are already being outcasted. Germany really has no say whatsoever. Okay, we all talked about the penalties that were placed on them, with restricting the military, with loss of borderlands, territories, with the sole blame of the war, the reparations. In all reality, if you want to have an international organization, a group of countries coming together, you need to all be on the same page, right? You need to all have the same equal seat. And already from the beginning of the League of Nations being dictated by who? The Big Four, right? Yeah. Who were part of the Big Four again? Who were they? Great Britain, David Lloyd George. France, Clemenceau. Orlando, Italy. And we talked about him already. He said he was smoking the pipe. It wasn't him, though. Wilson, yeah, Woodrow Wilson, United States. So these are the Allied powers, right? These are the victors. So who do you think they're going to punish? Well, Germany. They're not going to have an equal seat. And we know because Germany became such a military and industrial power so quick, well, chances are they could become that industrial military power that quick again, just the snap of a finger. And that's exactly what's going to happen leading up to World War II. All right. So again, all reality, they would have maybe allowed for equality amongst all countries and have an equal say and equal opportunity to discuss these concerns and not be outcasted from the very beginning. Maybe the League of Nations would have been a little bit better. But a lot of you said no for the United States joining. Anybody say yeah? Anybody say the United States should have joined? No. For the League of Nations here. Oh, you're saying stay out of League of Nations after World War I? Yeah. Anybody say to join the League of Nations after World War I? No one did. Oh wow, Griffin, what do you say? Do you say no? You think the United States should have joined? All right. Okay. All right. Wow. I guess no one said for them to join. Again, the United States could have been that mediator, right? They could have been the country that would have, I guess you could say, this dissolved any conflicts or issues amongst these countries, and maybe move the progression forward and rebuilding stages, and allowed for Germany, Italy, Japan to have an equal seat. Maybe, who knows, right? We don't really know. But as you all were saying, maybe it was in the United States' best interest to stay isolated, to stay out of these issues, because getting involved in another war is very costly. Okay. And the United States, we're sitting back, pumping all these resources, all these finalized goods to Europe now after World War One. So what's that going to do to our economy? What's that going to do to our industries? Tanner?
It's gonna make them rise up even more, but
Yeah.
with the Great Depression.
We'll get there, yeah. But at this point, this is going to boom the economy. This is going to grow the United States even more as an industrial power, as all these other European countries are kind of sitting in the background yet, trying to rebuild from the effects of World War One. We didn't see the effects, right? So we're just booming these industries, these factories. All right, good. So today I just want to talk briefly about the Spanish influenza. I'm sure you guys heard a little bit about it. Especially with COVID-19 being so big, they reference back to the Spanish flu a lot. Again, we'll talk about the Red Scare a little bit more in detail here, maybe tomorrow or Thursday. We'll see. But in September 1918, the influenza virus, the Spanish flu is what they call it, spread all across the world. This was a pandemic, right? This was huge. And many people compare COVID-19 right now to the Spanish flu. Where did it emerge? Well, where do you think? The battlefields, right? Yeah. You're drawing all these resources, all these people from around the world into a conflict, right? And we talked about the lifestyle and what? The trenches. How was it? Terrible, right? It was disgusting. It was terrible. So in all reality, if a pandemic was going to really outburst, it was going to be from World War One. It was going to be from the trenches. It was going to be really, obviously, and from this conflict, where many of these soldiers were jam-packed tight against each other in these trenches. We all know that there really wasn't any bathrooms, so they just went right into the trench. There was no drainage, so they're kind of just laying in it, stepping in it constantly. It's gross. It's gross. The poor weather conditions, we mentioned that already, sitting out in the elements constantly. But the Spanish flu, we talked a little bit about this. Well, I guess I did in my other class, just with a current event. But reflecting it to COVID-19, it's very similar. There's many shutdowns all across the world, okay, in the United States especially. All right. With the US, we kind of had a different stance to it. At this point, the United States was aimed to be the country that is supposed to support the rest of the world. We were the ones that were going to help provide to rebuild Europe and some of these other countries in Asia, right? So it was up to us to rebuild. So do you think President Wilson was really going to focus a lot of his attention on this influenza virus? No, not really. Not really. Because he knew, well, if we stopped our production, if we stopped the rebuilding stages of Europe, well, what's going to happen to our industries? They might shut down, right? They might not be able to keep up with the demand from Europe. And Wilson saw this as a way to continue the rise of our industrial power. So, in all reality, President Wilson kind of just stepped back. He didn't really focus too much on the influenza virus, and he just wanted to see the United States prosper even more from this war, from this conflict. Okay, but we mentioned it a little bit with just how this affected the world. And schools, different types of areas were focused as new hospitals. They're trying to get as many people as nurses and these areas as possible to help these people out with this virus. And as these soldiers are coming home, obviously going to many communities, going back to their areas, obviously. This is going to spread the virus even more. And the death rate was huge, actually killed a third of the world's population, even more than World War One itself. More people died from this virus than the actual war, which is crazy to think about. It's crazy to think about just the effects of the war in general. Okay, if you just apply it all together, it's not near as close to World War II, but it's pretty darn close, especially with the influenza virus. They call it the Spanish flu. They say it originated from Spain, but in all reality, Spain was a neutral country. So maybe it didn't actually come from there. Maybe it actually was just from all these groups of people coming together in this conflict from around the world and the poor lifestyle in the trenches. That's most likely where it came from. But again, pandemic stage, maybe you can reference it. Maybe you can look at similarities between the Spanish flu, right, the influenza virus, and COVID-19. They made a lot of songs about it, which I thought was interesting. So when you look online, you can find many like little almost like children's songs and melodies to it about how to stay protected from the virus. Okay, wearing masks and trying to prevent any type of really connection with people. And we all know with quarantining, that's exactly what we're doing now. But today, more than ever, we have more advancements, right? We have the ability to create vaccines. We have the ability to really prepare ourselves a little bit better for a pandemic than back in, let's say, 1918, right? It was a lot more difficult then. And let's face it, we're a lot more connected, right? Okay, around the world at that point, it was just kind of hearsay. Yeah, you get the news eventually, it might take a week or two. Now it's connected through social media. You can pick up on this information pretty fast and help with the protection of and guidelines of how to stay safe from this type of virus. Back then, they didn't really have that. Okay, so we'll talk more about that a little bit tomorrow. Okay, I have a video for you on the Spanish flu, the influenza virus, and maybe tomorrow I'll have a writing where you can compare the Spanish influenza and COVID-19. Yes, we will. So here's a poem, actually. Let me show you that once. You guys can see this in modules. Oh, I know. But this actually like really reflects it. Like 100 years ago, and a very similar thing happened. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe, yeah, maybe. Oh, you'll hear more about it. It's actually kind of like research, right? Oh, here it is. Here's the poem. Here's the poem. Someone will read that for me. Okay, here's a poem that was made during the time about the influenza. Chloe, you want to speak up if you're going to read it?
Oh, yeah. I cough, I sneeze, I snort, I wheeze. I'm in a perfect frenzy. My head is dough, my nose will go. I've got the influenza.
Oh, go ahead.
I shake, I ache, and every joint, every motion rends me. Dog on the dawn, that froth is on the Spanish influenza. I kick the cats and break their slats, and everything offends me. I rip and roar, life's one big bore when I have influenza. I fill my skin with everything that pesky neighbors send, and veiling hope with lasting hope to cure the influenza. But vain is hope and vain is dope. When angels come attend, I'll peacefully lie in
a martyr die
of Spanish influenza.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So again, that's maybe a way that people connected back then. Today we have social media, but they just use poems, I guess, written in newspapers or magazines. But again, very similar to what we're facing today with COVID-19. Huh? You want to write a poem? Yeah, that'd be kind of cool, actually. Yeah, maybe we can do that. Maybe create your own.
I tell my